time for us to understand variables in C language, because without variables, we would not be able to do any operations in C. For example, let us assume that we want to add two numbers. So how are we going to add two numbers in C? Without obtaining these numbers first. So in other words, if you want to add 8 and 9, we need to put this 8 in a container and put this 9 in a container, and then we perform the addition. So that container is what is called as a variable. Now, it is also conventionally defined to be as the address for the constants. Say, for example, 8, the address of 8, you assign 8 to a variable, say number 1. So the number 1 indicates the address of 8. So having mentioned that, we were to write a simple program in C language to demonstrate variables, then it would be something like this. Of course, we need these two libraries, and then we start off with int main, and then we have to open the block. So I need to add two numbers or add three numbers. So I am going to be declaring the type of constants I'm going to be using. So they are going to be integers. So after I have decided on the constants, it is time for me to assign the variables for these constants. So I would start off like this: number 1, number 2, comma, number 3, and then a semicolon. Now there are three variables: number 1, number 2, number 3, and they are all belong to integer types. Now, a most important point that you will have to know. What is that? A variable name should never start with any numbers. Say, for example, instead of placing 2 here, don't have the habit of placing 2 in the front. The general convention is to always ensure that the variable starts with the letters in the English language. Now, this is the first point. A variable should never start with any numbers. Have that in mind. Now, the next thing is, do not use characters in the variable name. Don't do that. Number 3, of course, you can use the underscore symbol, but never start with that. So you can use underscore only at the end or to connect two words. Finally, a variable name should never contain or be a keyword, be a reserved keyword. It means no keywords. You can't have a keyword in a variable name. So these are important rules that we need to use them. And one more thing, you can either assign values at the start or receive values from the user. You can either do these things, one of these things, right, or both. It doesn't matter. Now, having mentioned these things, so let us check out some of the valid variable names. So I've given you three variable names here, and I'm going to assign numbers to that. Number 1 is equal to 3. Number 2 is equal to 9. Number 3 is equal to, say, 5. Simply, I'm going to be printing them out. Printf, the first number, Since they are integer type, I'm using the specifier %d. Command number 1. Okay, and then I'm returning 0 and completing the program. So let us build this and check if we have done everything fine, and then we execute it. So I'm building it. It's fine. I'm going to run it. It says the first number is 3, the second number is 9, the third number is 5. So let me just place a line space there. I build it. So now it's fine. Okay. So now we understand that these variable names are perfectly fine. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to be placing an underscore sign there. Underscore. Of course, when you build it, this program is going to run. Okay, there wouldn't be any issues. But the only issue is that the variables that we are using here makes the program more tardy. The more understandable the variable names that we use, the better it is for us. Of course, you might say that it is okay for me, but your program is not going to be only read by you, but by many people. So in generally, we avoid a variable name starting with an underscore. Build this and still I get the output. So I hope that makes the point clear. I'm going to be removing this underscore and then I'm going to give an hyphen. Okay, I'm going to build it. I see immediately it gives an error. It wouldn't compile. It will bring in more chaos. So having mentioned that, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for a change, I'm going to say 34.5, okay, as a variable name. 34.5, 34.5, 34.5. So this is going to be my variable name. Now let me change everywhere, 34.5. So this is our new variable. Let us build it. No, it wouldn't build. So we can't do that. So if I were to remove the decimal point and see, I'm removing the decimal digit and writing it as 345. Okay, no, it wouldn't build because it's already throwing out an error. So we don't start the variable with a number. Okay, now let me use an underscore. What happens? 345 underscore underscore. And let us try to build this. So we are not able to build this. So even if we are going to remove the underscore, it wouldn't let us build this. So the first statement, a variable should, instead of using the word ideally, I'm going to change that. It should never, okay, it should never start with any numbers. That's the best way to put this. So I'm going to remove this off. Okay, so it's an invalid variable name. I'm removing it off. I'm removing it off. If you want to use a keyword, say char is a keyword, right? But you can always use it with this number 1 or number 2. So that is acceptable. That's a keyword, but I'm using it in conjunction with the variables. I wouldn't have any issue in executing the program. So you can see that. So as long as you don't use the keyword in isolation, everything is fine. The moment you use them in isolation, you are not going to execute the program. So I've got char number 1, number 2, and then everything looks okay. Let us build this and let us get the output. So it gives the output as first number 3, second number 9, third number 5. So that's fine. So if I were to use an underscore, okay, in between the keyword and the variable name, let us see, everything looks fine. We run it and we're getting the output. So there's no issues when you have a keyword being connected with a variable using the underscore sign. Now remember, we don't place any quotes for a variable name. That is also imperative to understand. We don't enclose the variable name in parentheses. We don't do that.